Audio Unleashed. We've gotten some reviews on Apple, buddy, on Apple Podcasts, and a few of them are pretty old, but like it's been a while since we sort of dipped into it. So I thought maybe we'd start off this episode just looking at some of the reviews because I'd like to get your reactions in real time.
Have we started? Have we started?
Yeah, man, we're recording.
Oh, well, I didn't know. Normally we have some kind of big zinger to start with. Hey.
Do we need a zinger?
Nah, people know who we are and why we're here.
That's true, they do. Let's start with this review then. This is a review from !75448.
Mm-hmm.
The headline of the review is Missing the Point. He gave us 1 star, and his entire review is Burger suffers TDS. I don't know why Brent. I don't know why Brent doesn't suffer TDS. And by the way, for any of you who don't know what TDS stands for, it stands for truth, decency, and sincerity. So,
yeah, but we're not guilty of any of those.
I know, right? Here's another one.
Okay,
from Skippy Turtle. These two guys are awesome. They tell it like it is. Funny, knowledgeable guys just talking about audio gear, news, and experiences. That was really fun. Thank you.
Very nice. Yeah.
Here's one that is just, it's by Frequent Flyer 10,000. And this one bothers me a little bit. It says, better than the other hi-fi podcasts, which is good start. But then the review is, Brent doesn't let Dennis talk, and he mentions that he is a jazz musician at least twice per show. Otherwise, this is an entertaining podcast. Let me address that first point. First off, right?
All right.
Brent doesn't let Dennis talk. Brent enables Dennis to talk. Dennis has crippling social anxiety, and there's no way he could do this podcast without Brent. Also, there are a lot of times that we edit out Brent basically saying, hey, buddy, you need to talk some. So, no, that is not true. It is not true that Brent doesn't let Dennis talk. Brent enables Dennis to talk. And also,
I try to set you up for talking.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll take that. We'll take that under advisement.
Maybe. Yeah, here's another one I hadn't read. Favorite audiophile podcast. This is from Mr. Charlie Green. Mm-hmm. This is my favorite audiophile podcast. The hosts are genuinely entertaining to listen to, no matter what the topic. I do wish they would do more interviews, though. The ones they have done are very good. Well,
yeah,
Mr.
too.
Charlie Green, I think maybe next episode we're going to have some good news for you. So,
yeah, maybe. We got one in the works, in other words, and we really should. I keep thinking we should do more. So yeah, we'll do that.
Anyway, we're going to start off with a piece from Audioholics from Mr. Jacob Green. It's a really cool article, in my opinion, called Hi-Fi Hotels, the Audiophile Vacation Destination. And he talks about 2 hotels specifically in this article. One of them is in Memphis, Tennessee. It's the Central Station Hotel, and it's actually owned by Hilton. Of all people, it's a Hilton hotel.
Ooh,
but
wow.
The other one is a luxury resort, the El Sereno Lago di Como in Italy. Boy, to call it luxury would be the understatement of the year. So I think I just going to respond to these 2 different hotels, these 2 different approaches to sort of an audiophile hotel. And even, I don't know, I mean, I think we've got some opinions about whether or not this is even valid and cool, or is this a trend? Or anyway, we'll dig into that. But
well, to me, an audiophile hotel would be a Motel 6 with $50,000 worth of stuff in each room.
It's just called a trade show, buddy.
Pretty much. Anyway, next, we're going to talk about an article by John Darko of Darko Audio called The Greatest Lie Never Told. And I read this and I was just like, wow, he came out and said it. And he talks about how so many reviews say, oh, this unit performs as well as units 2 to 3 times the price. And his big point is, he's like, well, that's a meaningless statement unless you name the products that it outperforms. And then he goes into all the reasons why people don't name the products that, the device under test supposedly outperforms. Yeah. And I really liked it, but I think it could go a lot further. And I think we at Audio
Unleashed
can provide some suggestions as to what might be some more credible type of reviewing and comparisons.
Very cool. Yeah. That's going to be fun to dig into.
And then we will travel around the world to...
We will travel around the world to meet our buddy Geoffrey Morrison, who has written a new piece for Soundstage Solo called The Rise and Fall and Maybe Rise Again of Akihabara, Electric Town. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Everybody, at least all the English speakers, or all the Americans I know, call it Akihabara.
Okay, cool.
So they kind of add an extra A in there.
Oh, all right. Well, so yeah, this is a place I've never gotten to go to Japan before. So it's funny. I'm on the outside looking in a lot of ways because I'm so jealous of all the stories that you guys have about visiting this place when you're on, junkets to Panasonic or what have you, all these sort of Japanese junkets that used to happen back in the day and then I just barely missed. I sort of came in on the tail end of that heyday. But yeah, Jeff's traveling the world right now and wrote a story about this place. And I'm mostly going to be sort of living vicariously through you and Jeff, getting both of your impressions about what this place was like, what makes it so cool.
Yeah, it's kind of it's always been a rite of passage for consumer electronics writers, their first visit to Akihabara.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
It was very exciting when I went, and I can talk about it, except Jeff says it's all changed now. So,
Yeah. What are we going to do for patrons, buddy?
We are going to talk about these new Ascendo speakers. Now, we talked about Ascendo a while back because they make these just colossal subwoofers that are, what were they, like 100 inches or 80 inches or something?
Yeah, like 100 inch.
Yeah, so they have come out with a new cardioid speaker. And this is kind of a trend. It was started by Bruno Putzis with Key Audio. And where you have drivers, some bass drivers in there that actually cancel out some of the bass. So that the bass, instead of, bass is omnidirectional, right? It radiates in every direction. So it goes, to you, but then it also goes back against all the walls. This actually cancels the bass. It's going back towards the walls. And so it gives you a cardioid pattern, just like the microphones that we use to record audio.
Unleashed.
Basically, these microphones reject sound from behind the mic and pick up everything in front of the mic, right? And the speaker kind of works the same way. And so it cancels the bass going backward and only allows the bass to go forward. And we're going to talk about why you would do that, and whether or not it's a good thing, and whether or not this is a real trend that's going to go anywhere.
Yeah. But before we get to that, let's talk about audiophile hotels or audiophile vacation destinations or whatever you want to, however you want to put it. What's funny is when I saw this headline, the first thing I thought was, boy, if this isn't an indication that the sort of audiophile market has gone, so upscale that that the audiophile experience is just tied indelibly to vacation destinations. I don't know what does, but I have to say the Memphis Central Station Hotel really surprised me by bucking that impression. The one in Italy, I think, definitely reinforced it. But the Central Station Hotel in Memphis, I thought I had a really interesting story. So in the piece, the author, Jacob Green for Audioholics, talks about the fact that the Central Station Hotel describes its bar lounge as the best sounding music room in town, which is not something you would expect for a hotel bar or whatever. And then he goes through talking about the massive vinyl collection. They've got 40,000 songs. I don't know why you would break it down by songs instead of records, but okay. But then he goes on to talk about the custom built Eggleston Works speaker system, which is really, really cool. So basically, when Hilton sort of wanted to build this place, they went to Eggleston Works to sort of deck it out, not only in the bar, but also dedicated audiophile room behind the bar, and also some Eggleston Works speakers in the hotel rooms themselves. So you can listen to audiophile speakers before you go to bed. What do you think about all this?
I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. Now, with these particular Eggleston Works speakers are talking about are actually, I'm pretty sure I've heard these at trade shows, and you look at the speaker, you're like, yeah, there's no reason that couldn't work. It's probably a good speaker if they got the crossover right. So that's fine. A lot of these things, though, if you go to the first picture on this article, it's, some Klipschorns sitting there.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of these certainly, and this is, certainly related to the jazz kissa trend that we've already talked about several episodes ago, and which I've, taken the trouble to go to a few of these places. And I don't know what their intent is. Their intent may be that they're trying to get the best sound possible, but what they're doing is gravitating towards a lot of old school horn speakers, right? Which, in my view, are not the best sounding speakers out there.
Yeah.
We have made some progress in the last 60 years. And so I kind of question that idea, and I kind of have to wonder, like, this is actually selling high-end audio, right? So people, if they go and they enjoy this experience, they will maybe buy a system like this, or maybe they'll buy a smaller version of this, right?
Yeah.
And this is like their idea of what high-end audio is, I think, is these kind of wacky horn speakers. Like, that's what good quality audio is.
Well, that's the wacky horn speakers are the ones in Italy. So you don't have any Klipschorns.
Yeah.
All the stuff in the Memphis, that's the Eggleston stuff.
It's all Eggleston. That's all like designed according to standard accepted principles of decent sound, right?
Yeah. I think so.
So I'm just pointing out, though, that I really think this whole trend of hi-fi hotels and hi-fi bars and things, it's going towards what looks good and what looks cool, as opposed to what's actually good. And I mean, of course, this happens in the world of music all the time. So that's fine, whatever. And people obviously enjoy the experience, or they wouldn't be doing this. And it's also hipping people to high-end audio more, and making people think, wow, this is something I should explore. And, my question is how, I don't know how they're going to explore that, since it's getting harder and harder to find dealers.
Yeah.
I mean, I think some people just do it because it's an expensive room. They're like, oh yeah, it's got a deluxe stereo system. Oh yeah. And they may not even use it. But one thing I really like, though, is that they actually let the Eggleston Works guys, they actually let them design, the commercial sound system that spreads the sound all through the bar and all that. And they're using what seems like a good design. It's a coaxial design, and it's like a cylinder, and reinforced with carbon fiber. And they have them, they're pendant speakers, and they hang from above and they point down. And they actually figured out like the right height to put them at, and all this kind of thing, which, boy, in commercial sound systems, you just don't see that attention to detail. And I'd love to hear it. I'm more interested in hearing that than I am in hearing the Eggleston Works speaker, the big hi-fi speakers. Because you don't hear a lot of good commercial sound, in shopping areas, retailers, restaurants, things like that. And this, because you could, they can do it, but just nobody bothers, because it's assumed that nobody cares. But in this case, I would love to hear this. If I went to Memphis, I would stop in just to hear this.
Yeah. I would also like to see that sculpture that Eggleston Works chief designer Jim Thompson put together. Basically, this one wall in the bar is literally a sculpture made out of old speakers.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I just want to go stand in front of that thing and just sort of see, like, which can I identify, which can't I, which have I heard of, which haven't I, what are the brands? I mean, I see some I see some Sherwin Vegas in there.
Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say.
At a glance. Yeah. But some of this stuff I'm looking at going, what is that? I don't recognize that. Like the ones that have the multicellular horns, but they're turned sideways. The four that are stacked on each other to the left. Basically, if you look at the left side, they're the 1, 2, 3, fourth end. Like, what are those?
I think those might be Radio Shack Mach 1s.
Oh, we talked about those last episode.
They might be. I also recognize, I think it's a Yamaha way over on the right side. Everybody who listens to this should go look at this picture. We'll have a link in there. It's just so cool just to see all these speakers just piled up like this. It's like, I'd do that.
Yeah.
I'd do that, and I would actually wire them all up so that they could work. And wow. That'd be funny. It's kind of like a Grateful Dead thing, except not as well thought out.
Well, the wall of sound only lasted for a couple of years at best, so it was maybe a reason it went away. I thought the other cool thing is Thompson also designed the DJ booth, which is based on the framework of an old organ. I mean, so again, it's some of this stuff is science and some of it is art and some of it is just cool. And I got to tell you, of the two, the one in Como, Italy is no doubt the more luxurious experience, but I really want to go to, I would rather go to this place in Memphis and check it out just because I think cooler vibe, cooler experience to me. I mean, to me, cool and luxury are two different things, right? The one in Memphis is cool. The one in Italy is luxury.
Well, it's more the hotel. I mean, the thing is, the system that they're showing in Italy is almost identical to the system at the Jazz Kissa that I went to in Seattle a couple months ago. It's Macintosh amp and same, similar speakers. They have original Klipschorns there. These are Klips with Scala too, which are a little smaller.
Yeah.
And, but they have a tape deck there, which is cool. And I mean, it's kind of groovy, but it's more like they just plopped down a high-end retro-ish sound system into a hotel lobby, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's something.
Doug and I were, Doug Schneider, founder of Soundstage, he and I were talking about this the other day, and he paid me a really kind compliment. He was like, you just get Soundstage Access, which is the publication that I run. And, it's all about more attainable, more affordable hi-fi. It's also about home theater, but he was like, you just get it. And I was like, I think that's because I'm a true believer, man. I think it's because I literally believe with all my heart that having higher quality audio reproduction has genuine benefits, not just to your mental health, but also, in terms of your ability to sort of disengage and relax. I mean, I think it has a physiological impact on you that I think we as humans are better off when we are exposed to high quality audio reproduction. And so that, in my case, might mean that I advocate for more affordable stuff, right? But also it means that things like this, where just, look, there's no more Circuit City. I was in Best Buy the other day buying a hard drive. They didn't have any audio systems hooked up other than a few little Bluetooth speakers. Like, where are people going to go to have that moment like I had for the first time when I was a teenager at Circuit City and my mom and dad needed a new refrigerator, and I got bored and stepped around the corner and found myself face to face with a big pair of Martin Logan Electrostats. Like, what is that? And started listening to speakers, and like, where are people going to be exposed to that? It ain't at retail. So,
well, there are obviously independent dealers, and but that's an intimidating experience, and most of them nowadays are not. It used to be like you find those dealers in a lot of strip centers and things like that, where where you might stumble upon them, right?
Yeah.
And I can't remember the last time I saw an audio dealership in an area where I would stumble upon it. Usually they are. Some of them are in, like industrial parks.
Yeah.
And which is cheaper. Some of them are in people's homes now.
Yeah. And
so it's harder to find. It's definitely it always was a little intimidating, I think. And, so unless people.
Not when it was at Circuit City though. Cause like I said, your mom and dad are buying a fridge and you could be like, what is that? Like,
or Magnolia.
Yeah.
Or Magnolia. I mean, you could, that wasn't intimidating, but like a lot of these dealers, it really is as much as friendly as most of these guys are, and as generally pleasant as it is to go into their store. You got to find the store. You got to be aware that such a store exists, but at least when people see a speaker system like this, they might go, oh, this sounds really cool. I should investigate this a little bit. And then maybe they'll pick up a copy of Stereophile, or maybe they'll get on the web and maybe where would you pick up a copy of Stereophile now?
Yeah.
Well, that's not a slag on Stereophile. It's hard to find magazines anymore. Maybe you go online and you'll find the Stereophile website. Maybe you'll find Soundstage. Maybe you'll find CNET or something like that, right? And
maybe they'll stumble across Audio Unleashed. Let's get them while they're new, man.
Yeah, but we're not helping them buy stuff.
Well, that's true. We're helping them not buy stupid stuff, though.
I was just about to say, we are telling them what's stupid and what they shouldn't buy, but we're not really telling them what to buy.
Maybe we need to do more of that.
No, I don't want to. I have to do that for a living, man.
That's a good point.
I really don't want to do any more of that.
All right, buddy. Well, I think I've said about enough on this one. You got any more you want to say before we take a break and get some water?
I'm enthused. If I ever get to Memphis again, I will have to stop by.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break, go get some water, and we will be right back to talk about The Greatest Lie Never Told by John Darko.
We're back. This is Audio
Unleashed.
And we are going to talk about an article that really grabbed both of us by John Darko. It's called The Greatest Lie Never Told, which is a confusing title because it's a lie that is told. But whatever. So he's, his first sentence, he's swinging for the fences. I want to discuss people like me, hi-fi reviewers, and how we can deceive people like you, the hi-fi hardware buying public. Wow. Woo, boy. The big thing he's talking about is how hi-fi reviewers so often will say, this product competes with products selling for 2 or 3 times the price. Or this product is as good as those with significantly larger price tags. It punches well above its weight class. This product would shame more expensive rivals, blah, 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 right? And his point is, which are the costlier rivals? You're not saying anything unless you can specify it. He calls it the specifics with a trademark sign on it. Maybe he's maybe he's actually trademarked that. Maybe, who knows, man. And maybe he'll sue us for talking about it. Probably not. He's a really nice guy.
I don't think Darko's quite the NFL, man.
No, he's a really nice guy. Great guy.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is just something that I've thought for decades. I remember there was an article before I got to Video Magazine, a couple of issues before. There was an article where they interviewed Amar Bose, and Bose at the time did not make any speakers for, video. They did not make home theater speakers because home theater was just kind of starting to happen then. And he was talking about how their speakers, one of the reasons Bose speakers are better is because their manufacturing tolerances are so much tighter. And he's like, a lot of those speakers that are, from other companies, they're, the huge mismatch between the left and right speakers. I'm like, well, I wouldn't have printed that because, name which ones.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing is like, if writers are saying this competes with products selling for 2 or 3 times as much, and they don't name the products, it's wussy, first of all. And, as he points out, they're scared of losing advertisers. They're scared that manufacturer may not send them review samples in the future. They're scared of all sorts of things. And it's so easy to write that. It's so easy to write that, and the editor will let it pass. Which editor would not let that pass? I can't name one. Well, I don't edit.
I mean, I've had publishers specifically tell me, you can't be doing that. Like you're gonna piss off the other company, right? You can't be making those comparisons. So, it's tough. Yeah. I mean, one of the advantages of John running his own publication and being his own man, is that, he has that leeway to say, no, I'm going to name names. I'm going to tell you what products I'm talking about. But, and I have to say, Soundstage Doug really has never put any constraints on me with regard to what I put in my comparison and competition section. And sometimes I'll, hey, this product is blah, blah, blah. This product is blah, blah, blah. He's never had a problem with that, but man, Jerry used to get on to me if I tried to do that at Home Theater Review. No, we're going to lose that advertiser, and so it's tough. If you're working for another publication, you might not have the luxury of doing this.
Yeah, but he talks about the readers as well and how the readers basically expect this. And the readers want to have something that justifies their purchases. And so
Right.
someone says this Ever Solo streamer, I think they make streamers.
Yeah.
This Ever Solo streamer is, outperforms units costing 2 to 3 times so much. And I would say with a streamer, that's entirely plausible. In fact, likely.
Very likely. Yeah.
But still, it's like people want to buy something where someone said, "Oh, this thing for $500 is as good as the things for $2,000." So, why would I buy the $2,000 thing, right? I mean, I make that kind of decision, gosh, almost every day. Even going to the grocery store and buying, a cheap pasta versus expensive pasta. Although I usually buy the expensive pasta. Don't ask me why, but it's sort of like a circle of confusion in a way. And that, the readers kind of expect this, the manufacturers kind of expect this, the reviewers do it because it's easy, and it all just sort of feeds on itself. And I think, and he talks about how maybe this is why Stereophile closed its comments section, because, people, there's so many people that will just come in and say that automatically that anything expensive is a ripoff, and that if you cover anything expensive, you're out of touch, and blah, 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 blah. Now, I have much to add to this, though, but I'm going to let you talk. I'm going to let you talk.
Yeah, thank you.
But first...
Thanks there, Kanye. Anyway, I want to yes and Darko here, because he defines what the specifics are. He says at one point the missing information is what we might call the specifics. 1, what is the make and model of the affordable piece? And 2, and what are the makes and models of the more expensive pieces? But I would add a 3 to that. What are your metrics? What do you mean by better, right?
Exactly.
Because if I am comparing 2 DACs, well, there's the obvious metric, signal to noise ratio. I got to say, as long as you get up into, in my experience, the $80, $90, $100 level, you're probably past the threshold of audibility at that point. You're not going to be hearing audible noise unless you get into crazy expensive territory, in which case you might. But it really comes down to reconstruction filters. How many does it have? Are they selectable? Do they introduce any audible artifacts? If there are filters with audible artifacts, do the other filters not have them? Things like that. I mean, I would say, how are you determining what is and isn't better? And it's not purely performance. To me, ergonomics matter. To me, aesthetics matter. They might not to you, but if I am full disclosure spelling out every metric by which I say, here is why I think this piece maybe is a better buy than this piece, then you get to decide, oh, well, he's factoring in looks in this. I don't give a crap about looks. I can discount that. So, yeah, I mean, I think we need to expand what the specifics are.
Yeah, I was going to say almost the same thing, is that there, for some random reviewer to say, oh, I prefer the KEF something or another to the ELAC something or another because it has more inner detail or something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's meaningless. But this is, I mean, I've been through this a lot because, I've tried all through my career, tried to not get into these kinds of vague statements, right? And also to be able to defend myself against manufacturers who attack me, which really is not a problem as much now as it used to be when they advertised in my publications. Because now there's not much they can do except for not send review samples. And, most of the things I've reviewed, you can just buy the sample, and which we do sometimes. But I think that, the things that to me make the best case are if you have a blind test with multiple listeners and you say, and you specify how, as we said a million times before, specify how you did your level matching, specify how you did your switching. And in, maybe 3 out of 4 listeners prefer A to B, and you print that, what can the manufacturer say to that?
Yeah.
They could say, well, your listeners are stupid, or they could say, well, your testing method sucked, except if you document your testing method, then you can say, well, what sucked? What did I do wrong? And then if they say, well, you didn't use cable lifters, then you can just laugh in their face. I've had people go to that extent a couple times, not many times, but a few times, where they just came up with these preposterous objections. And then also measurements. I mean, with measurements, it's kind of like, as long as you did your measurements reasonably well, which granted is not easy, it's a little hard to argue. And when I can present, and I just did headphone DAC amplifiers, right, for like the little dongle style things for wire cutting. And, I measure the output of them. And that's the biggest difference in them by far, since we can't nail down any sonic differences. The biggest differences are the power that they have. And there's giant differences in power. Some of them have like 12 milliwatts into 32 ohms.
Golly.
And yet I've got some that can do a watt or 2 watts or 3 watts into, well, no, not these dongles. That's big amps. But like even some of these dongles can do half a watt into 32 ohms.
Wow.
That's a giant difference.
And they're drawing power like from USB.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
cool.
From your phone. Now, granted, it's going to draw your phone's power down. But I just got 2 from Shandling, and one of them is our current pick. And I got another one that is cheaper, and I can't remember what the actual power numbers were, but it added up to a 4 dB difference, which with the Hi-Fi Man HE6 SE headphones, which are the least sensitive ones I have, they are very insensitive. If you turn it all the way up on the one, it's like you can kind of listen to it, but if you turn it all the way up on the other, it's like, oh, well, this actually sounds pretty satisfying. 4 dB with those headphones is a big difference.
Yeah.
4 dB with normal headphones on an amp like this, maybe doesn't make a difference. But
yeah. Because you got you probably got your volume turned below half, or maybe even a quarter or something like that. So
yeah, but like to more to the point, he needs to, not John, the people that John is criticizing here. And by the way, he doesn't name any reviewers, does he?
Oh, it's turtles all the way down, buddy.
Oh man, did I lawyer him?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh boy.
Checkmate, Darko.
I wish I had told him that over a drink. That would have been funny to see his reaction. But anyway, these reviewers need to be much more, they need to say, like, what products do you think it sounds better than? And to Stereophile's credit, they do that sometimes.
Yeah.
Pretty often. A lot of times if they're saying, hey, this thing sounds better than this more expensive thing, they'll usually present it as like, well, this has a different sonic character than the other thing, and you might prefer one or the other, and blah, 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 right? They don't say that some $500 speaker slaughters a $2,000 speaker.
Right.
Although I guarantee you that some of the $500 speakers they reviewed are way better than some of the $2,000 ones they reviewed.
Yeah.
Probably better than some of the $10,000 ones they reviewed. But, so I will say Stereophile does kind of do it, but a lot of reviewers really don't. And it's, but John's right here. I'm really glad he wrote this article. And
me too.
But oh man, is there a comment section on this sucker? John doesn't have a comment section.
Well,
man, I would put that in the comment section.
He does on YouTube, but this isn't a YouTube story. This is a rare, purely text article from Darko. So
he's probably more concerned about maintaining good relations with his fellow reviewers than we are, since we don't go to shows anymore. And and we're so old, especially me.
I think he's just nicer than we are, maybe.
Well, yeah. But I kind of, he could have given some examples. He could have easily found some examples. I mean, just pop open go to the Absolute Sound website.
Well, he's got a screenshot here. He's got a screenshot of an example, but there's no clue where it came from, and it's actually an image, not text, so you can't highlight it and Google it. So you'd have to do some work to figure out where it came from. He's not completely protecting his sources, but he's not throwing them under the bus either. So
it's from the UK, because they spelled analog ANALOGUE.
Oh yeah. Well, anyway, buddy, I think we've beaten this one into the ground. You got anything else you want to say about this one before we wrap it up and go talk about Jeff's piece?
Thanks to John Darko for bringing this out and maybe making people think a little bit before they say this reflexive crap.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's take a break, go get some water, and we will be right back to talk about the rise and fall and maybe rise again of, pronounce it for me again?
Akihabara.
Akihabara Electric Town. So, yeah, we'll be right back. And welcome back. This is Audio Unleashed. Nice. A little bit of cup hand distortion there.
It's good ear, man. I cupped my hands around the microphone. You should be an audio reviewer.
I should, man. I could make a living at this. So this time around, we're talking about a piece from Soundstage Solo, your former publication, the one you got off the ground and passed the buck on to our dear buddy Geoffrey Morrison. Anyway, this article is The Rise and Fall and Maybe Rise Again of Akihabara Electric Town. Jeff sent this to me actually before it was even published, when it was sort of in the staging area where, I don't know if people know this, but like at Soundstage, like all of our articles go up on the web, but they're not live, and they've got sort of a back end URL so we can pass it around and fact check. And, everybody's got a comment on, oh, I think you should have used this word instead of that word, but whatever. So I read this before it came out, and there was a bit of a bittersweet experience for me, because it was a really great article, but I was like, oh man, I missed that. I never got in on that because I've never gotten to go to Japan. I never got to do any of those junkets. I've never gotten to see these crazy shops and shopping districts. And so anyway, this segment, I'm going to be listening to you reminisce quite a bit.
Okay. Oh God, that means I have to talk a lot.
Yeah. Sorry. I know you hate doing that.
I am trying to talk less. Now, I listen to comments from people and criticisms, and I take them to heart.
Well, don't listen to that one, man. I talk enough, believe me.
I do want you to talk more.
Okay. I'm trying. So anyway, Akihabara Electric Town, what was your first experience with it?
Well, I went there on a sharp junket. Ooh. And did you know in Japan they pronounce it shapu?
No. Yeah. Makes sense though.
But I went on a sharp junket, and we started in Tokyo, then we went down to Osaka, and that's where Sharp headquarters is, or was. God, who knows now? But and we were there mainly for things like camcorders, and so I can't remember exactly. I do remember who was on that junket. Stuart Walpin was on it, and he's been doing this stuff forever. A guy named Harry Summerfield, who wrote for the San Francisco Chronicle, I think. And so we had like 3 or 4 hours to go spend in the Akihabara. And it was such a kick. I'd heard about it from my old friend Lance Braithwaite, who was my mentor at Video Magazine, about how just this incredible bunch of electronic shops. And you go in there, and it's kind of like under a train station. And the ceilings are really low. Like Harry's probably 6'4", 6'5". I mean, he was ducking over almost the whole time, and I had to duck a lot too. And I was 6'1" then. I'm about 6 feet now. But it's really tight, and a lot of these stalls are no more than 4 or 5 feet wide. And I'm not quite sure how the people get into them. But and they're selling.
Is this kind of like a flea market mall or something?
No. It's much more organized and focused than that, because it's all electronics. It was. Now, Jeff's saying it's all changed. But so when I went there, I was actually shopping specifically for some things. And I had just gotten an old Heathkit amp with EL84 tubes, and I wanted to change them out because I didn't know how long they'd been running. And I found some Yugoslavian ones there for pretty cheap. I think they were like $6 each. And it's pretty pretty low price, and I bought them. And it wasn't as easy to buy tubes in the US than as it is now, because there's been a tube amp resurgence. But I bought some of those. I came out with quite a few things. But yeah, it was like all these little tiny stalls, most of them, and a guy selling a specific thing. Like one guy would be selling jacks and plugs, right? One guy would be selling tubes. One guy would be selling transformers. It was a lot of real do-it-yourselfy stuff. And then there were also people selling, mini disc recorders or whatever. And headphones, all sorts of things, and everybody seemed to kind of have their specialty. And I would guess there were probably, well over 100 stalls in there of different things to buy. And it just blew my mind. I just loved it so much. And it was, that is a foreign experience, man. There's nothing like that in the U.S.
Yeah.
And, Chinatown in New York used to be like that. I think most of that's gone. It used to be a little bit like that, but that was all like out on Canal Street, and all kind of like out in the open. And it was normal store type places where they carry a zillion different things. But it was unique. And I've been a couple times since, and every time I go, I'm just buying little things that I've never seen before, all kinds of cool stuff.
It's also the thing that strikes me, and I feel like this is something that we have lost in the era of the internet, is you should get to actually see the things. You know, I know this is slightly unrelated, but like my dad and I'm now installing shop lights for my dad in his garage. He's got a 3,500 square foot garage that he uses as a workshop, but my dad is losing his vision. And so the bay lights in there were just not bright enough. And one of the bay light 4-packs that we ordered did not come with the hook. So we had 4 lights and 3 hooks. Just trying to order the correct hook for that light was a nightmare, because the company that we ordered it from is just it's just a drop ship company. Like they there are probably 40 different companies selling this exact same light. But the problem is, like, how do you find the hook? Like, nobody sells just the hook. And so we've started looking at other stuff, and we've ordered like 7 or 8 different hooks, and every one of them is, we would think the thread size was right, but the angle of the threads would be wrong. And we just keep buying the wrong product. But with something like this, granted, again, a little bit different because we're talking about electronics, but you can actually look at the thing and go, is this what I need? Because a lot of the stuff that we're ordering online, trying to order these hooks, we will order it and we'll look at the picture online and we go, that is exactly what we need. And then we'll get the thing and look at it and go, that does not look like the picture, right? So I miss the ability to just see things and to touch things and to hold things. I think we've lost that. So
now, but what does Jeff say about this? I mean, I've described the way it was. That was 1991 when I went there, I think. So how has it changed? This shocked me because I probably haven't been there for 10 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he says his first time was 2005, like even past the heyday, but pretty much the biggest change is that it is, no longer really electronics. It's floor after floor of otaku stuff. It's, action figures. It's trading cards.
Okay. Yeah.
It's manga and anime stuff. It's basically Japanese geek culture, I would imagine there's probably Funko Pops and stuff like that. So it's changed, but, he does say it's kind of changing again, it's just really, really hard to tell. And look, I like the fact that Jeff asks more questions than gives answers, because, I mean, who knows? But, is this the changing face of retail? Is this a cultural thing? Is this uniquely Japanese? I don't think anybody really knows the answer, but the biggest thing for me is, like, even though I had never, I wouldn't say never, even though I'd never really seriously explored all of the stuff that is in here. Even I knew about that Sega Akihabara Building 1 arcade that had been there for decades and decades. Well, it's closed, it's sold in 2021 and the new owners have sold it again or shut it down again. So I don't know, man. there's this weird, I think we're in this weird state where it's like the past is behind us and we don't know what the future is. And I guess you could say that's always true, but with iconic stuff like this,
that's always true. Come on.
I know, but this is a particularly weird case, and maybe it's cultural, maybe it's, I don't know, economic, but I just appreciated the photos more than anything, really, because I'm getting to see stuff I never would get to see otherwise.
I did too. I got to point out, though, this is not uniquely Japanese, because in Seoul, South Korea, they have the Yongsan district, which is actually much bigger than the Akihabara. And I went there on I want to say maybe it was an LG junket. I think it was. And they dumped us off there for like an hour. And I had gotten, the junket ended like that night, but I had gotten my flight for the next day. I had pushed it back to, nighttime. So I'd have a whole nother day to spend in Seoul. And I went right back there. And I got there in the morning and I had to leave at about probably 2 or 3 to catch my flight. And I was not even close to done. I mean, it was like the Akihabara times 10. And I mean, they'd have one building that was, they'd have a shop with just capacitors, It was really, but then they had their, the Korean style high-end audio stores where it's basically a relatively small space, like a decent sized bedroom. And they have, God knows how many speakers, how many amplifiers, and we're talking high-end speakers and amplifiers here. And you have like a listening chair or a little couch, and the whole place is completely full of speakers and amplifiers and stuff. And there's a guy with a really complex switchboard who can let you listen to any combination of all this stuff. Now, granted, all these speakers are resonating along with whatever speaker you're listening to, and it's a extremely diffuse environment because it's like a giant diffuser the whole room, so it's not a good representation of what you're hearing, but it's really cool. And they had a bunch of those shops. I remember they had one shop that was nothing but speaker stands, and I think, maybe they had some other stands too, but maybe they had like some racks there too, but it was all stands and racks. And they had a lot of software they had a lot of places to buy CDs, a lot of places to buy movies. And then and that was just one building. Okay. And then they had probably 3 other buildings of that size. And we're talking about buildings that in the US would be like a mall. Okay. So it was like multiple malls in the same place, all within walking distance. And then they had like some long sort of strip centers, but then like on the inside they have strips. They have like stores on one street, stores on an adjacent street, and then they have an alley between them with a whole bunch more stores. Some of those stores were, both back and front on the street and the alley. Some of them were exclusive to the alley. And it was just this incredible experience. I wrote an article, I think, for Sound and Vision about it, but I can't find it anymore. But it was just, I was so exhausted by the time I found like this tent there. It was a little more than a tent, but not what I'd call a particularly, strong shelter. And there was a guy selling like Korean corn dogs there. I just sat down.
No, back up. You can't just say a phrase like Korean corn dogs and not explain yourself. What the heck is a Korean corn dog?
It's a Korean corn dog.
But what makes it different from like a Yankee corn dog?
Nothing. I mean, it tasted a little different. The corn they have there, I guess, is different, and their recipes are different. But it was just a Korean corn dog. You can get these things here in Seattle. And I had a couple Korean corn dogs and whatever beverage they had on hand, and I was just exhausted. And I was like, I still didn't even come close to seeing everything. And so these things are cool. We're not going to have this in the U.S. I don't think the interest is just not there. I mean, it's hard to buy just electronic parts anymore in the U.S. You used to at least be able to go Radio Shack, which you can't now. And, certainly different cities will have their own electronic stores, but they're usually not particularly great. I just order everything online now. If I need capacitors or jacks or plugs or chokes or something or another, go to Parts Express, go to, what is it, Digitech? I can't remember what it's called. And you buy it there. It's just, you're just wasting your time. And Fry's used to have a bunch of that stuff, but Fry's closed.
Yep.
So yeah, and I guess this is just a trend. It's sad though. I saw this. If you go to Jeff's article and you go to the picture where they're showing a bunch of like steel doors that have come down in a really narrow hallway, that's what the sort of center part of Akihabara, the part that's under the train station. It's an elevated train. You're not underground, but that's what it all looked like, except all those booths would have been open. And there would have been a ton of people in there. I mean, it was always packed. It was just such an incredible thing. And, probably, I'm going to guess, I would bet you that in somewhere in China, like in Shenzhen, they probably have something like this.
Man,
so
I got to get to Asia one of these days.
Perhaps one of our listeners would know if there's a region of Shenzhen that's like this.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Write in and let us know.
Yeah.
Anyway, bud, you ready to wrap this thing up and do some credits?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is, as always, a Butterburger production. So it's your turn to edit and mix and master and all of that. So what you doing for music?
I'm just going to, unfortunately, I'm probably not going to be able to compose anything new for this, but we have a giant archive of music now for the show. So,
and since I'm getting up and running on Linux now, and I'm transferring a lot of my virtual instruments over to Linux and being like, does this work? Does this work? Does this work? I've sort of been inspired to tinker and play with them. So I've actually got a couple of percussion patterns that I'm working on. So we might have some new music like next time. I don't know, but I'm inspired to start working on stuff again. So,
hey, can I get in a shameless plug real fast?
Absolutely. I insist.
So my friend David Aaron, who's a sax player in New York, he and I had a band together 30 years ago or whatever, but we're still really close friends. And he plays, sort of avant-garde jazz. He also plays in, pop groups and things like that too. But
is he the guy that you did the cover of Toxic with? Was that, or am I just making stuff up?
No. And that was somebody else. That was somebody here. Okay. And it was somebody here in the Seattle area. But anyway, he gave me a recording that he did at the Downtown Music Gallery in Manhattan, which is down in the Chinatown area. And it's kind of like the Akihabara a little bit. It's this underground, it's a basement shop, and you go through this door that's about 2 feet wide, literally, and this narrow little stairway. You go down there, and it's almost all CDs. The guy has his own record label, and he has bands perform there. Always, cool avant-garde jazz bands and all sorts of things like that, right? So Dave's group Flip City performed there, and he said to me, he's like, I want to record this, can I just do it on my Tascam? I'm like, a little Tascam 2-channel recorder, or maybe it was a Zoom, which is the competing brand. I said, yeah, but if you can get some extra mics in there somehow and do a 4-track recording, it would be better. And just to get some mics in there for the ambience, or mic the bass, because he has an upright bass player, and whatever. So he ended up he had his little, I think it's a Zoom recorder right in front of him. And then another guy had some kind of recorder and had a mic on the bass, I think, and then one mic on the drums. And so he's like, can you mix this? I'm like, yeah. And so thanks to the skills that I've built doing, my albums and also working on this podcast, I was able to take these recordings and sync them. That wasn't necessarily easy, because they got a little out of sync in places too. I had to kind of go and cut and paste and stuff. But I was shocked. I was actually able, by de-reverbing some of it, adding reverb to other parts of it.
Yeah,
I was able to make something that sounds like a good jazz recording. So we'll put a link in there. He's on Bandcamp. You can go listen to it for nothing, or you can buy the download. I don't know if he printed CDs, but you go check it out. I was really proud of it. I was like, wow, that actually sounds like a good jazz album, a well-recorded jazz album in a studio, except it's live. You hear the crowd. But I was like, cool. Wow, this is really cool. Anyway, link in the show notes.
I love it. Cool. All right. Well, everybody, we appreciate each and every one of you. And hey, go. We need more reviews on wherever you listen to podcasts. Maybe it's Spotify, maybe it's Apple, maybe it's I don't know, or leave us a comment on YouTube or something like that. Every little bit helps. But either way, we appreciate each and every one of you. And patrons, stick around. We got one more coming for you.
All right. You're done. I just want to make sure you're done talking. And now
I'm done talking.
Yeah. I'll say goodbye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end. If you liked what you heard and wish there'd been a little bit more of it, we got some good news for you.
Indeed, we do. If you check out patreon.com/audio unleashed, all one word, you can get new episodes a little earlier than everybody else.
And sometimes it's like a day or two early. Sometimes it's nearly a week. We never really know until we start editing.
But the big plus is that you get extended cuts of every episode. And usually that's going to mean a whole extra segment that's about maybe a geekier topic or something that's a little more personal to us or something that's just going to really appeal to the hardcore Audio Unleashed listener.
Yeah, what it boils down to is if you're somebody who would support Audio Unleashed on Patreon, we're going to make sure the bonuses to every episode are really aimed straight at your interests.
Yeah, and so if you want to hear these segments, you can subscribe to our Patreon for $3 a month, which is less than I spend every single day on my cup of coffee when I go to Starbucks to write my boring articles.
Yeah. One more time with that URL, that's patreon.com/audio unleashed.
Or audio
unleashed. Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.